Hello everyone, now let us discuss about Good Manufacturing Practices Guide for Active Pharmaceutical Ingredients Part 10. This comes under Q7 Quality Guideline of ICH. In the current session, we will be discussing about change control, which comes under Section 30. A formal change control system should be established to evaluate all changes that may affect the production and control of the intermediate or API. Written procedures should provide for the identification, documentation, appropriate review and approval of changes in raw materials, specifications, analytical methods, facilities, support systems, equipment, including the computer hardware, processing steps, labeling and packaging material, and computer software. Any proposals from GMP relevant changes should be drafted, reviewed and approved by the appropriate organizational units and reviewed and approved by quality units. A potential impact of the proposed change on the quality of intermediate or API should be evaluated. A potential impact of the proposed change on the quality of the intermediate or API should be evaluated. A classification procedure may help in determining the level of testing, validation, documentation needed to justify changes to the validated process. Changes can be classified as either major or minor, depending upon the nature and extent of the changes, the effects these changes may impact on the process. Scientific judgment should determine what additional testing and validation studies are appropriate to justify a change in validated process. When implementing approved changes, measures should be taken measures should be taken to ensure that all documents affected by the changes are revised. And after the change has been implemented, there should be an evaluation of the first batch produced or tested under the change. The potential for critical changes to affect established retest or expiry date should be evaluated. The potential of the critical changes to affect the established retest or expiry date should be evaluated. If necessary, samples of the intermediate or API produced by the modified process can be placed on an accelerated stability program or can be added to the stability monitoring program. The current dosage form manufacturer should be notified of changes from established production and process control procedures that can impact the quality of the API. The current dosage form manufacturer should be notified about the changes that we have made from the established production and the process control procedures that can impact the quality of the API. Now coming to rejection and reuse of material. Coming to rejection, intermediates and APIs failing to meet the established specifications should be identified as such and quarantined. And these intermediates or APIs can be reprocessed or reworked as described below. The final disposition of rejected material should be recorded. Now coming to the reprocessing of rejected material. Introducing an intermediate or API, including one that does not conform to standards or specification, back into the process and reprocessing by repeating a crystallization step or other appropriate chemical or physical manipulation steps. For example, distillation, filtration, chromatography and milling that are part of the established manufacturing process is generally considered acceptable. However, if such a reprocessing is used for the majority of the batches, such reprocessing should be included as a part of standard manufacturing process. Next point is continuation of a process step after an in-process quality control has shown that step is incomplete is considered to be a part of normal process and this is not considered to be reprocessing. Introducing unreacted material back into the process and repeating a chemical reaction is considered to be reprocessing. Previous statement is not considered as reprocessing. In general, whenever the process step is blocked for some time in order to perform an in-process test and again the step is continued, that is considered as normal process, not reprocessing. Introducing an unreacted material back into the process and repeating a chemical reaction is considered as reprocessing, unless it is a part of established process. Such reprocessing should be preceded by careful evaluation to ensure that the quality of the intermediate or API is not adversely impacted due to the potential formation of byproducts and overreacted materials. Coming to reworking. Before a decision is taken to rework batches that do not conform to established standards or specifications, an investigation into the reason for non-conformance should be performed. Batches that have been reworked should be subjected to appropriate evaluation, testing, stability testing if warranted, and documentation to show that reworked product is of equivalent quality to that of the produced by original process. Concurrent validation is often the appropriate validation process. Concurrent validation is often the appropriate validation approach for rework procedures. This allows a protocol to define the rework procedure, how it will be carried out, and the expected results. If there is only one batch to be reworked, then a report can be written and the batch released once it is found to be acceptable. Procedure should provide for comparing the impurity profile of each reworked batch against the batches manufactured by established process. Where routine analytical methods are inadequate to characterize the reworked batch, additional methods should be used. Coming to recovery of materials and solvents. Recovery, that is from mother liquor or filtrates of reactants, intermediates or APIs, is considered acceptable provided that approved procedures exist for the recovery and the recovered material meet the specifications suitable for their intended use. Solvents can be recovered and reused in the same process or in different process, provided that the recovery procedures are controlled and monitored to ensure that solvents meet appropriate standards before reuse or commingling with other approved materials. Fresh or recovered solvents and reagents can be combined if adequate testing has shown their suitability for all manufacturing processes in which they may be used. And the use of recovered solvents, mother liquors, and other recovered materials should be adequately documented. Coming to returns. Returned intermediates or API should be identified as such and quarantined. Returned intermediates or API should be identified as such and should be quarantined. If the conditions under which returned intermediates or APIs have been stored or shipped before or during their return, or the condition of their condition cast doubt on their quality, the returned intermediates or API should be reprocessed, reworked or destroyed as appropriate. If the conditions under which returned materials on APIs have been stored or shipped before or during their return, or the condition of their container casts doubt the quality. If those conditions they raise a question regarding the quality, these returned intermediates or API should be reprocessed, reworked or destroyed as appropriate. Records of the returned intermediates or API should be maintained. For each return, documentation should include name and address of the consignee, intermediate or API batch number, quantity returned, reason for return, and use or disposal of the returned intermediate or API. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for further videos on pharmaceutical sciences and other related disciplines.